Hi everyone, Rachel Nard here. Welcome to Kettlebells Made Easy. This is lesson 11 of the 14-day fast track for beginners, where we will talk about how to train hypertrophy with kettlebells. So what does hypertrophy mean? Hypertrophy means just creating larger muscles. So there's some other factors obviously that go into it regarding nutrition and making sure you're eating enough to elicit those muscle gains. But we also want to focus on how we are structuring our program to help create those adaptations. So in lesson 10, we talked about strength work and how to lay out a basic week of strength, which, if you remember, intensity, very key component, focusing on our 5 to 8 RM loads. In hypertrophy-based plans, they get a little more complex because we work with our 5 RM loads all the way up to our 20 RM loads. So when we were talking in the earlier lessons about intensity, remember that 5 RM is also equal to the heavy zone, and then we have medium, light, and very light. So these types of plans will help you work in the light and very light zone as well, which can help you create hypertrophy and get bigger muscles. So what do we need to focus on here? Similar layout as the strength plans, in the sense that frequency is still important. In these plans, we found the most success with 3 to 4 days of strength work because the average intensity is going to be lower. You'll be able to recover better from these sessions in the sense that every day won't be heavy all the time. You will touch a little bit of the heavy weight on each of your sessions, but at the same time, you'll have less total reps in those heavy and medium zones because we're also going to spread them across the light and very light zones. So even though your total number of repetitions for the month is higher, you actually won't necessarily have more heavy and medium reps in those types of plans. So again, frequency 3 to 4 days. We found the most success to spread out all the work and recover from that. Like I said last time, it doesn't mean 3 to 4 total days of working out. You can still have another 2 to 3 days of your conditioning sessions, which we will get into a couple options for our final 3 lessons in the course. The volume, definitely a longer runway. So if you remember, we started around 150 total reps in the plan we went over last lesson. This plan today I'm going to show you starts at 300 total reps per pattern, and we've had clients go over 600 reps per pattern in this type of plan. It does obviously start to take longer, so hovering for me somewhere between 300 and 400 reps per pattern is a really great place to hang out, and you can kind of work your way up and down each month. So with these plans, the volume per skill is somewhere between 10 and upwards of 70 plus reps. Not in the heavy zone, but more in those light and very light zones. The distribution, we've done many combinations of plans. The one I'm going to show you today is 3 days where you're hitting all 4 intensity zones each day. So you'll do heavy, medium, light, very light each day. We've also done plans where 2 of the days are all of your heavy and medium lifts, and the other 2 days are all of your light and very light lifts. So there's a ton of combinations. If you want to explore some of that, definitely check out our website, trainwithwaves.com. We have over 50 different types of plans on there, and we're still adding more. So definitely check that out if you're looking for more complex or advanced programming. So I will get into the sample plan today. This plan is actually on our training library. It is month 1 of our total body hypertrophy plans. So I believe we have 5 plans on there that build on one another. So you could go for 5 months continuously in this same structure. Like I said, this plan starts out on the lower end of the hypertrophy plans. So just 300 reps per pattern. So 300 lower body reps, 300 upper pressing reps, and 300 upper pulling reps. And as you can see here on day 1, we are going to be working just 2 patterns per day. So day 1, we have our 5 and 8 RM upper pulls in combination with our 12 and 20 RM presses. Day 2, we have our 5 and 8 RM lower body lifts in combination with our 12 and 20 RM upper pulling. And then day 3, we have our 5 and 8 RM pressing in combination with our 12 and 20 RM lower body work. So this plan, as you can see, is not labeled with specific exercises. And this can come in handy because it allows you to have a little bit more variety. And also, like we've said many times before, it doesn't matter what skill you pick as long as you're getting the intensity correct. And if you check out our training library, one of the first modules is some frequently asked questions and also a giant list of substitutions of exercises you can use in these different patterns if you're not sure. So for example, day 1, we have our upper pulling. So we'll just use what we used in our last plan, which would be the kettlebell row. So you can do any type of kettlebell row, bent over row, renegade row, gorilla rows, as long as you're working with your 5 RM weight and your 8 RM weight. So as you can see on here, your 5 RM, you only have 4 reps. And this plan, I actually listed the ladders that we tend to use. So the strength plan was a lot more basic. It was in 3 different charts. This is all in one chart, and you're doing something different each day. So the first plan we talked about rep ranges. So somewhere between 2 and 4 reps, or somewhere between 3 and 6 reps. And you could kind of pick any combination to get to your total reps for the day. This plan, I've listed ladders, which can become more effective to get through the session a little bit more quickly. And also, as you are increasing the volume over time, it just makes the math a little bit easier because it'll start to become second nature that, okay, I need this many ladders to get to this total for the day. Probably not today, but if you go through a whole plan, you'll start to get used to it. So for example, day 1 reads down, but the intensity reads across. So if you look at day 1, you have your 5 RM weight, which you will be doing ladders of either 1, 2, 3 or 1, 3, 4 to get to your total reps for the day. Now we don't even have to do the whole ladder because we only have 4. So on this day, if it were me, I would probably do a set of 1, a set of 2, and a set of 1. So in this case, we chose kettlebell row. So you'll do 1 on each arm. If you have access to other equipment like a pull-up bar and you can do pull-ups, this is a great option as well. I tend to put a wider grip pull-up there or a weighted pull-up, and it becomes very challenging. So 8 RM pull, same thing. You don't have to stick with the same skill. If you want to do renegade row for your 5 RM pull and just a regular bent over row for your 8 RM pull, that is totally fine. So you can have variability within one session, even though you're working the same pattern, which is really cool. So your 8 RM pull, you have 26, which as you can see to the side, you'll do in 2, 3, 5 ladders or 2, 4, 6 ladders until you get to 26. If you have a random number left over, that's okay. You just have to pick somewhere between the range, which in this ladder is 2 to 6 reps. So in order to get to 26, we could do 2, 3, 5, 2, 3, 5. That gets us to 20. And then we have 6 left over. So technically the zone goes up to 6. If you want to be super hardcore, you could do a set of 6 at the end, although you might be tired. Or you could do a set of 2, 4 or 3, 3. There's a lot of combinations to get you to 26. Same process for the 12 RM. So the 12 RM, like we talked about in our last lesson, we're still using reps in reserve. So these ladders are really only between 3 and 8 reps. We have 25. So we know that 3, 5, 8 equals 16. And then we have 9 left over. So in this case, I would do 3, 5, 8, 4, 5, because 9 is higher than that top end of my ladder. So I'm not necessarily going to do 3, 5, 8, 9. So again, pick your 12 RM press. In this case, you have more options. So hypertrophy, if you're looking for muscle building, you can still stick with your military press. One arm, double kettlebell, all that's totally fine. You could work into a push press here or even a jerk if you wanted to. You can also do horizontal pressing, which could be a push-up variation or that kettlebell floor press, which we talked about in the pressing lesson. The 20 RM zone has a little bit of flexibility in terms of you could go really light with the weight, or you could use it as an accessory. So this is where it comes into play with specific hypertrophy goals, is that your 20 arm press could actually be something like a tricep extension or a skull crusher, things that really isolate your triceps. If you don't want to do that, you can just use a slightly lighter weight and still do any sort of overhead pressing or horizontal pressing, and that's fine. So in that 20 RM zone, we have 29 reps. So we could do our 4, 6, 10 ladder, which would bring us to 20, and then we would have 9 left over, so we could do a set of 9. So we could do 4, 6, 10, 9. If you did 6, 7, 13, that would bring you to 26, which you would then have 3 left over. So technically you should spread those 3 across the other 2 sets. So I would probably do 8, 9, 13 instead. And that would get me to 29. So you have to be not that good at math. As long as you can count to 10, you'll be able to figure it out. It might take you a week or two to really figure out the ladders and, working your way up to the total for the day. But once you get through a week or so, promise it'll all be second nature and you'll be cranking out your ladders without even thinking. So going into day 2, it's the same thing. You are looking across at the intensity, and then you're going down for what skills and how many reps you have for that day. This plan is distributed so that only 5% of your total lifts are in the heavy zone, so it's really not too bad at all. All of them are less than 5 total lifts in that heavy zone. 30% of the lifts are in the medium zone, 30% of the lifts are in the light zone, and 35 are in the very light zone. And that gives us 100% of our lifts. So this is just one example of hundreds of variations of plans we could create to have this hypertrophy-based goal. Definitely encourage you to take a screenshot, run through it, see how you like it. If you have more questions about it, definitely visit our website, trainwithwaves.com, or shoot us an email, team@trainwithwaves.com. And just to recap real quick, when training for hypertrophy with kettlebells, our frequency is 3 to 4 days a week. Our intensity somewhere between the 5 RM and the 20 RM zones. Our volume anywhere from 10 to 70 and beyond reps per skill. And the distribution If we're doing that 3-day combination like I showed you today, we're gonna hit all 4 zones each day. If we break it into 4 days, we can have 2 days where we're only doing heavy and medium and 2 days where we're doing light and very light. All right, so I hope you guys learned a little bit about how to structure your week for hypertrophy goals. And I will see you next time for lesson 11. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up if it helped you. And I'll see you soon. Bye.